All right, I think we have everybody here, but Eric Schreier. Mike Powell is on vacation. He's not going to be able to attend. And Nate is in the field today and he's not going to be able to attend. He sent me all of his bullet points, so I'll provide that information to you. Is everybody okay with starting the session or starting the board meeting?
Yes.
All right, so slide here, just general board business. I just want to welcome you all. Thank you for attending today. Let me know if you have any revisions to the agenda or any other feedback. Again, we've got that board packet file that's been created in the board, what is it called, board documents file within Google Drive. So there are 5 different sets of information, everything from the social media information that Alicia put together, all the way to the membership report that Michelle put together. So we've got quite a bit in there. I encourage you to look for that and dig into that prior to the board meetings to just kind of get a deeper dive on the agenda topics. Any revisions to the agenda? Hearing no revisions, I would take a discussion or a motion on approval of the minutes.
I approve them.
So I have a motion from Gail. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a second from Mike. It's been moved in second. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing no discussion, I will take roll. All those who approve the minutes, state aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Excuse me, sorry about my voice. Hearing no, or the minutes were passed. Thank you, Hillary, for putting those together. All right, board reports. First report is me. So I'm going to do the treasurer's report for Nate since he's out today. He just wanted folks to know that the full scope June invoice has been paid. Also, I don't see Rob on here either, but 2 of the 3 K-12 grants checks have gone through, so Sentinel High and DeMitch School. But he has not seen Belgrade School cash their check yet. So if anybody has contacts there, let them know their check's in the mail and they need to cash it. So let's see, both higher education scholarship checks have gone through. Currently we have a savings balance of $49,580.59 and a checking balance of $8,212.78. All right. Does anybody have any questions on the treasurer's report? Hearing no questions or comments on the treasurer's report, we'll move over to scholarships and grant updates. I don't see that Rob's here, so we'll move on to the next one, and maybe if he shows up, I'll have him report then. Next on the list is member development committee, Mike Edom, or item. Sorry.
Hi, everybody. I don't have a ton to report. I was on vacation the last 2 weeks, so still kind of just catching up. And next month, I plan on putting together a summary report from the social media accounts. Alicia sent me one a month or 2 ago, and I haven't had a lot of time to really analyze all the information and kind of create a summary presentation for the board. Is there anything, are there any tasks that that you guys might have for me, or?
The only thing I can think of, Mike, is Bobby Johnson, the crime analyst from the city of Billings, is looking to put together a meetup for Yellowstone County, Stillwater County, Carbon County, and maybe one other county, just to kind of allow the different first responders, emergency folks that do GIS work to get together. So you might see something like that come across the board and need to get promoted.
Okay, awesome.
I took a look at the report that Michelle and Alicia took sent out. My big takeaway, I guess what I saw from that is LinkedIn is where it's at. It seems like that's where we get most of our interaction and a lot of our have the most users, I guess, that are connected to us.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. I mean, it's a professional social media app.
Yeah, and Jeff, Alicia had the same feedback on that. But she said it certainly doesn't hurt to keep, when she posted, it goes out to all the social media platforms. So it certainly doesn't hurt anything to keep posting on those other ones, but LinkedIn was definitely the prevalent one for sure.
I agree with that. Twitter has a very minimal amount of use, but the people who do use it have quite a bit of interaction from what I see.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else, Mike?
Not from me.
All right. We'll go back to Rob. Rob, do you have a report for us on the grant scholarships and grants?
Hi guys. No, there's nothing to report, and there will probably be nothing to report next month either. It's not a active time for us at the moment. But yeah, like I said, I made myself available to the at least the education grant recipients, and if they have some work going on this summer, I will report on that. But currently nothing.
All right. Well, I'm not sure you're here to hear this, but all the checks have cashed for the grants except for Belgrade School. So we may need to check in with them to make sure that they know they got that money sent their way.
Okay, hey, that's good information. I'll reach out and see if everything's okay on that end.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Next is the conference committee, and I don't see that Eric's showed up yet, so we'll skip over that. If he happens to join, we'll come back to that. Next, we'll go to the technical committee with Tessa.
Hi. So not much from me either. I did look at that email chain between Michelle and said Katie from the Northern, and it looks like we have pretty good facilities in terms of internet, and a lot of stuff is included with just Magip being there. When we get a little bit closer and figure out who's going to be around, it looks like we have Zoom equipment that's going to be an extra charge, and Polycom conference system that'll be an extra charge. But I think that's just going to be something to keep in the back of your mind and everyone's mind and budget wise when we get a little bit closer and figure out, the logistics of who needs what and how we're going. Yeah, that's about all I got. I haven't been in contact with Jason Danielson very much. Part of that is I am leaving the city of Great Falls and moving to Bozeman. I'm going to work with Gail. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So once I get settled, I'll be able to pester Jason as much as I want. So, but yeah, that's about it. Is there anything else you guys can think of?
Congrats.
No, thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very excited, but a lot of stuff to do before then and now. That's for sure.
We're
Yeah.
super excited too. Sorry. So I can't say that
Yeah.
enough how excited we are, but it's a big move.
Oh, well, thank you, Tessa.
Yeah. And like I said, when we get a little bit further along in planning and after our strategic retreat, then we'll have an idea of what all we need to do on that front. So, yep, that's all I got.
Good stuff, Tessa. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Web subcommittee. Megan, you got anything for us? I know you have stuff later in the agenda.
Right. Yeah. I'll cover most of that there. Nothing pressing otherwise, just keeping up on the calendar and whenever anybody requests anything to be added or whatnot. Quiet time in the summer.
Great, thank you, Megan.
Yep.
All right, Emily-ac or whatever it's called now. Eric, what do you got?
Yeah, hi. You guys hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah, MLEAC had basically I don't know if it's necessarily going to be if it was my final meeting or not, but they had their final advisory council meeting on Friday, June 23rd. He was here in Helena at the Lewis Clark Library. Number of things you can go to their website and look at past meeting minutes and announcements, but yeah, we had the usual standard reports from Magip. Mike presented, Erin presented her stuff, some strategic goals, implementation plans. Big thing that they're looking at is at the state library is some best practices for geospatial data. And that's particularly what the state library manages. But they'd like to work with the state leaders, Magip, and some point in time create an updated policy for statewide management of geospatial data, I guess. So I guess more to watch there, just to be aware of. Looking at improving communication with geospatial. Let's see, the COVID dashboard has now been decommissioned, which brought up a interesting discussion about archiving dashboards and story maps. What many people, what processes many people may have or agencies have, but the data is still there in the services, but they've decommissioned and shut down the dashboard. We've chosen to do a smaller scale dashboard that's being manually maintained by folks at our public health department on our end. There was some discussion on some of the legislative changes. Obviously, MLIA is getting changed. We did have later that afternoon, we did do a MLIAC working session to identify, and formulate a path forward and roles and responsibilities for that new board. I think that's going to actually, my intuition on that, it's going to come down to whoever gets appointed to that new board. There is a link that I need to get from Erin or shoot, I just dropped it, or Jenny, for people who want to apply to be on the board. Just know that it's dropping in size. I think there's only maybe 2 or 3 local government reps now, or something to that effect. I haven't yet submitted my application for reappointment, but I haven't decided yet if I'm going to or not, to be honest. Let's see, the real-time network is out there, tested, and then another big pass with the legislative update was the Montana coordinate system bill passed. We're standardizing to the state plane coordinate system for across the board for things. So that was a couple of that. But yeah, so for a lot of us, that may very well have been our last meeting for MLIAC until we find out who the governor or the governor's appointee appoints an appointee type of thing. So and then we had a real nice no-host social later post meeting where no business was conducted, so there's nothing to talk about there. But nice gathering at the 10 Mile Brewery here in town. So that's about it. And should things change for MLIAC in terms of my role there, you may need to look or may need to remind Jenny and Erin that someone from that needs to be appointed to the position on the Magip board, I think. So
Okay.
should I not get reappointed to the board, to the MLIAC, or I guess it's the Montana Geospatial Advisory Council, MGAC, or something like that. So
Oh, yeah, just keep me up to date on what you're thinking there, Eric. And
I think I believe Lee was going to resubmit her name. I have to go on. At one point they had a link on the state library's website to get to the page where you submit your reappointment, but it's broken, and so I need to remind Erin or Jenny to send me that link again. So
okay.
Or I guess I could just do my own sleuthing, I suppose. So
Well, Eric, thank you for all that information.
Certainly.
Thank you for attending the meeting. Administration, Michelle.
Yes, so, I know Eric's not on, but I had reached out to the conference committee from last year, a few weeks ago, just to gauge interest on who would still like to participate on this year's planning committee. And I did get some good, I think I've only had one person respond and say they're not going to have time to do it, but otherwise we'll have a pretty good conference planning committee group again. And as you know, Jeff, looking for hopefully a couple individuals from Billings to join that group. So we have that local involvement. Hoping to schedule the first conference planning meeting, hopefully towards the end of August, beginning of September. And then, yeah, just in communications with the Northern, making sure we have all our logistics straight as we move forward for Billings. And then have the meeting with you and Mike and Gail, as you know. And then Jeff, I just wanted to ask you, I know you and I met too last week and we had talked about, and if this is later in the agenda, just let me know, but we had talked about that request for assistance and I was going to work on the email template. Are we going to talk about that later in the?
Yep, it's on the agenda.
Okay.
That are new business.
Perfect. And then the membership report. So other than that, that's all.
Thank you for submitting the membership report. Are we staying about where we were? Or are we increasing in membership? I didn't get a chance to look into that too deeply.
Yeah, it looks like, I mean, from what I could see, it looks like we have a few more members than we did last year, but I can't work out how to. So let's see. Yeah, I think we were a little ahead of last year, but I can't work out how to, you know, when we transitioned over, because everybody's join date used to be from the time they joined, and then we transitioned to the new renewal date. I'm not really sure how to separate that out. So the reports I pulled one was just where we were at the end of last year for 2022. And then the other one was just where we're at right now. So if you go just on the bottom line of both of those, then we're a little bit ahead, but it'll be interesting to do another one at the end of the year to see how they compare at that point.
Yep. I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else, Michelle?
Nope, that's it.
All right, thank you. All right, Andrew, local government SIG.
Relatively quiet for me. We had a good meeting last time in June where we talked about Missoula County Land Survey, and we also had some good discussion about tools for doing adjacent property mailings and some of the issues that came up with that. I'm finding it a little challenging to keep up with a monthly format in terms of generating content and speakers. So, and I may end up switching to a different format just as my current workload is a little bit higher than I expected in terms of my summertime. We will see how that goes. I do have something for this week or this month pulled up, but I just may keep you posted as to what I need to switch format soon for the fall or this winter. And then I'm also hoping to get the draft of the survey out to my helpers to look at in the next few weeks so that we can get that out and get some feedback from the users about what they want to do in the future. So that's where I'm at.
Excellent, Andrew. I didn't get to attend the last one, but the time before, you do an excellent job with that SIG. So really appreciate what you're doing there. Next, I have the LiDAR SIG I'm having the same issue that Andrew is in that just trying to find enough time to keep that going. I did send an email out to Rob and John, letting them know where we're at on that. I'm hoping to put together a LiDAR SIG, like a LiDAR 101, to help people understand LiDAR and its derivative products and not diving too deep into LiDAR, but essentially what you can do with the byproducts of LiDAR, like DMs, contours, hydrological analysis. I reached out to Keith Weber to see if he had any ideas, but I'm just kind of struggling, Rob. I don't know if you have any ideas for a speaker. I don't know that I have the time to put together a whole bunch of content. It would be nice to find somebody that could do some of that heavy lifting to give a presentation put together.
Yeah, that's a tough topic, you know, because, you know, it's almost sort of like a couple of years ago we were struggling with communicating with our members and stuff, and we reached way back into the closet and we were like, what is GIS? You know, it was like a bit painful to, so I think it wouldn't hurt to advance the conversation a little bit. Let's move beyond what like, listen, if you're even saying the word LiDAR, you should have some knowledge. You know what I mean? It's been around for long enough. Like, don't need to hold hands anymore, I don't think. I'd like to move the discussion into a little bit more of a practical environment and things of that nature. But one of the things that's happening, right, I think tomorrow, or no, we got moved to Thursday, we have a kickoff, right? A kickoff for the next LiDAR acquisition.
Oh, yeah.
Phase. And I think, short of anything else, I think that is the topic, right? We're looking to acquire more, and we're going to need to come up with some specifications for what we will acquire, and maybe that's something to focus on. Previous specifications for obtaining the data, future specifications, and the out of the box material, derivatives that will be available through the state library. Let's cut down, let's not make it an infinite universe of what to talk about. Let's talk about something specific, such as what's going on right now and what will be available and what you can access without any further work on your part.
Is that the MSDI Elevation Working Group that's having a meeting tomorrow, Rob?
Essentially, yeah, it's being led by the USGS folks.
Okay.
USGS and NV5, which is quantum geospatial previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen anything on that, so I don't know if it's just a select group that they're working with, or.
I can forward the email thread to you if you'd like.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else? Would anybody else want access to that?
Yeah. So our USGS liaison, Tom Carlson, him and Michael Bradford are leading the discussion.
Okay.
So, okay.
Thank you, Rob. I like the approach that you're discussing too. LiDAR is not just stuff that's flown anymore. There's a lot of pretty neat stuff with LiDAR being driven as well. So
yeah. Yep.
All right. Well, we'll see how the meeting goes tomorrow and see if Keith gets back to me, and hopefully we'll have something to go going on the 24th.
Another person to consider talking to is Jessica Mitchell at the U of M Spatial Analysis Lab. I think in previous conferences, she's offered to do some LiDAR workshops. So she may already have some canned material.
Okay.
If you're looking for stuff,
Yep.
that would be a good place to connect.
What did you say her name was?
Jessica Mitchell.
Cool. Thank you.
And you said she's with the Spatial Lab.
Yeah, it used to be with the Natural Heritage. They were combined with the Natural Heritage Program, but now it's just a U of M entity, and it's called the Spatial Analysis Lab.
Yeah, there were several vendors that wanted to help lead that too, that had discussed it when we had our last SIG at the Big Sky GeoCon. I just didn't write, or I did write them down, but I can't find the notes from that. So anyway, perhaps reach out through the listserv or something like that to see if there's some interest. If anybody be interested, wanting to present or help with the LiDAR stuff. So I'll reach out to Jessica, just like I did.
Have you, as the city of, and I don't want to dominate the conversation here. Has the city of Billings, have you obtained your data yet? Is it in hand?
No, the delivery date for that is, I think, somewhere like January 16th. That's their deadline, and I haven't seen any products yet. So.
Okay.
Jeff, this is Gail. Did you say that there was going to be a LiDAR meeting on the 24th?
That's what I'm planning to do. Yeah.
Oh, you'll be sending out an invitation, right?
Yeah, if I can find a speaker and some help with
Okay.
it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So yeah, if nothing else, you can do a review of the, acquisition meeting that's taken place.
Okay. Yeah.
20th.
Yeah. A topic that I find at least fascinating, or at least important within LiDAR, is the connection to the USGS and the 3D-HP program, where they're redoing all their NHD stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the reason I'm sounding the drum about it is because there's a lot of counties, at least that I'm aware of, myself included, that would love to spur USGS to take that on, but of course there needs to be a funding match, and that can be a challenging topic.
Yeah. Hey, good. Thanks for bringing that up. I had this conversation in the parking lot with a colleague yesterday. One of the so what I want to share with you is a little bit of a lesson learned from the acquisition side of things. So, and this relates to the development of the specifications. When you came to the table with some funding to the acquisition side, you had a say in the specs. It didn't matter if you have $1 million or 100,000 or just 1,000. You come in with some funding, you can contribute to the conversation in a meaningful way. So I was talking with a hydrologist who has some money to put towards that. And I said, this is what that buys you, right? It buys you a seat at the table to develop the specs. But don't put all your money in it. You know what I mean? This is just like the 3DEP. I mean, it's a USGS mandate. They have to do it. And eventually they'll pull the funds together with you or without you. But by contributing, you can enhance the process a little bit and you can have a say. So yeah, even if it's not much, if you want to be involved, make sure you come to the table with a little bit of funding at least. Right? So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. And that is going to be another long process. Developing the hydrography from the LiDAR, because we're not even done collecting the LiDAR yet. So it's going to be a while. Anyway,
Well,
that's it.
Great discussion. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Andrew. Anybody else have any thoughts on the LiDAR SIG? All right, we'll move on to the budget discussion. So I have a bunch of feedback for you from Nate. He provided quite a narrative. So right now we're in the black with the current budget. After just to take a step back, Mike, Gail, I don't think you were able to make it, but Mike, Michelle, and Michael and I were able to. Gail, were you there? I can't remember.
I think I was there.
Yeah.
When was it? Was it in
Yeah.
June? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So sorry about that, Gail. We all got together and had a discussion with Full Scope on ways to balance the budget. And with all of those thoughts and ideas, Nate was able to balance the budget, and we're $354 in the black. Now that's just a projection. But that came with discussion with Full Scope on what we would do with our contract, and we decided instead of going forward with an additional hour a month for Alicia, we would stay at the 2 hours a month. So that puts us. We'll get in that with the Full Scope contract, but that was that and some. Michelle, I think you worked with Nate on re-looking at the expected revenues that we would get from the billings conference. So we're going to see, I think, some more revenue there than what we expected. Let's see, what else does he have? The increased price by $100 for each level of additional sponsorship. So going up by 100, and then talking about creating a new diamond level or a higher level of sponsorship that we're hoping that Esri would take advantage of. So creating another level at the $5,000, hoping that would bring in additional income. I think this has already been decided, but we talked about how Michelle was going to look into the internet costs and Ethernet costs. That came back actually to be mostly covered and not as expensive as we thought. So there were some budget adjustments that were made there. We're able to save $6,000 by not providing a Thursday box lunch and letting people just take advantage of all the local cool places to eat near the northern there for the conference in Billings. The only other two things that Nate wanted feedback on was where do we want to go with Survey 123 and the Esri subscription, and how many nights do we need to look at funding for people to attend conferences like Marl's? Like last year, Mike Powell was able to attend the Marl's conference with Jeff Hedstrom and Aaron from Aaron Vaughn from Great Falls. So I'll just leave that. Hopefully that was a good synopsis of the discussion we had, and get your thoughts on whether you want to go ahead and approve the budget.
Really quick, I have a thought on the survey monkey versus the ArcGIS Online. I'm going to send everybody a link in the chat, but it's a Society for Conservation GIS, and I'm not sure how this would work with us being a 501c6. Yeah, but if you subscribe to or become a member, it's only $50 a year, and you get an ArcGIS Online account essentially. So it's $50, and then you'd have access to Survey 123. So that, I mean, if we want to look into that, like I said, I don't know how that would work with us already being an organization and then trying to join another one, but yeah, just a thought.
Wow. That's
interesting. Yeah.
And I've used that for, personal projects. And they really do give you, it's like a $500 value, that 500 license for $50 a year. And they're like, please use it for profit. So it's kind of crazy.
So the one thing that I would be concerned about on this, I'm just going to throw my 2 cents. I think my personal feeling is, since we're GIS, we should be using Survey 123. The challenges that we've talked about, and this would be one challenge that I would see with the Society for Conservation GIS, probably the data associated with it would be stored in their ArcGIS Online account, not our Magip or Montana State Library account, or however we would set that up. I think that would be one thing to be concerned about.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they have any limitations on how you could actually use the ArcMap, or I'm like, you know what I mean? That would be another concern that I would have.
Yeah.
And we've talked about getting an ArcGIS Online, or the ArcGIS Online licenses for Survey 123. If we had our own account, we would be able to have access to go back over to. to go over like previous surveys and such. But one of the things we've talked about that we would lose by going to SurveyMonkey is that we would lose that historical data. And I think there was a conversation about potentially finding out if there was a way to export that data so that we could hold on to that. I'm like, my personal feeling, and this is truly just personal, is that I would love to see us using Survey 123 because it supports the industry that we're in. But I also would really hate to lose access to that historical data if we don't have some way to pull it over. If we could make an argument for we'd never ever go back and look at those, then I would be like, yeah, just cut the cord and let's move on. But I think that's a bigger conversation to have and not just me. But this Tessa, this is really intriguing. I think we should maybe, I don't know, I think it's worth looking into.
Yeah, but I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know what kind of trouble we might get ourselves into, but I mean, 50 bucks for a membership, an annual membership instead of $550 is good for what we're dealing with right now, I'd say.
Mhm.
It looks like you can export SurveyMonkey results at least. So even if we exported them, saved them somewhere, and then if we ever needed to go back to them, we probably could.
And, we have, the reason we did the survey was to get input to make a decision. And our decisions should be documented in our, meeting notes.
Oh, that's a good point too. And it sounds like to get access to the Survey 123, it would actually be an ArcGIS online license, and we could store those documents from SurveyMonkey. Hillary, was that you that was saying that there's a way to download that data?
Yeah, it looks like you can have CSVs and PDFs. So
yeah,
an option for sure.
That'd be awesome.
That's
I mean,
great.
my personal, yeah, because if we could search it using the CVS or even have both, I don't know. I'm a data hog, so we need both formats.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But I would vote for spending a little bit more money and supporting our industry.
Yeah,
that's my take on it.
Any other thoughts on that discussion? Well, Gail, I would agree with your 2 cents. I would prefer to use Survey 123. I think one of the things that Jeff pointed out at the last meeting was I don't think you have a branching and looping functionality in Survey 123 where if you can ask a question and then it leads to more questions that you can dig deeper on issues, but I'm not sure that that's needed either. And I also remember Michelle bringing up that we have some of those same capabilities within Wild Apricot, if I remember right.
Well, I think with the polling feature, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, the polling feature is it's pretty limited because you can only utilize it for members. So it can't be used outside of that. It can't be sent to non-member contacts.
I do feel like, Andrew, you, when we were talking about doing the survey, wanted to be able to have those options. Jeff, what did you call it? Where you ask a question and then you get a certain answer and it expands it. What's that called?
Branching.
Thank you. The branching
I believe
questions.
You can do that in Survey 123, as far as I know. You may have to use the Survey 123 Desktop Connect version instead of the web-based version. But even when I was messing around with it the other day, you can make grouping of questions into groups of questions in the web-based format very easily. And the branching and looping, I think, is pretty. I think the Survey 123 is fairly sophisticated.
Yeah, you can do that for sure. And you can like populate answers based on other answers and
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we can map it.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I don't want to minimize any discussion, but I would entertain a motion. It sounds like there might be a motion out there to approve the budget with, maybe we need to have a discuss. Is there any discussion that anybody wants to have on the funding of board members' travel to events? I'll just say that Michelle and I talked about it, and just based on the feedback that I got from Michelle, it's really important that we have somebody at the Marls event. The relationship that we were able to reestablish with the leadership there and the reciprocity that they're providing in attending our conference, I think that it's important for us to have at least one or two people there and help and pay for somebody to attend. I don't think we have to worry about the registration fee. I think all we have to worry about is renewal.
Where is it this year?
The person that would be able to answer that, I think, is Mike Powell or Jeff. They were at the conference last year. I'm not sure where it's at. Let me Google it real quick.
Is it in Butte?
I think I remember something about that.
It looks like it's in 2024. It's going to be in Butte.
Okay.
At the Copper King. Yeah.
And it's in February, is that right?
March 20th through 22nd for 2024.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it was in February this year.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Jeff, what's the protocol? I realize that we haven't been doing this for very long, but what's the protocol for who attends that?
Well, last year we had the president attend.
Okay.
And talking about the transferring of duties from one president to the other, one of the things I expressed to Mike is I particularly don't want to travel to an additional event like that. And so I said that I would be very okay if Mike wanted to do that, Gail, or if you wanted to go as vice president. I would be certainly okay with either of you attending as a board member.
Okay. Yeah, I would be okay with attending that. So how does that work? So would I need to get funding for my hotel room or travel?
I think we would just cover it under the budget cost. We just may need to up the budget a little bit to make sure that we cover that. So, and I think
Okay.
we amend the budget later on if we didn't have enough funds after the strategic planning retreat.
Yeah, and I may have some money in my budget as well too. We'll just, when we get a little bit closer and after we talk to Mike Powell, maybe we can talk about that during our strategic planning.
Okay.
I think it's really important to have people there and to keep that relationship open. I think it's a really important relationship, and I agree that we need to just continue that.
I think it would be nice to see if there's a potential relationship with MAPPA or however its acronym is for the planning and the planners that have their here too.
Yes, I agree. Good
So,
point.
all right. Any other discussion points there? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget with the intent of moving forward with purchasing the ArcGIS online license for $550 per year and archiving the SurveyMonkey information and moving forward with the budget that Nate has proposed.
I approve.
So we've got a motion by Gail. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Tessa. Any discussion? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on approving this motion? Hearing no further discussion, I will move forward with the roll call. All those who approve the 2020 for fiscal year or 2024-2025, no, 2023-2024 fiscal budget. For the motion, state aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, hearing no objections, the motion passes. Thank you for all your discussion there. We've got a lot of things to figure out that it came up in that discussion, so I'm forward to some further discussions, and we'll let you know how we move forward with archiving the SurveyMonkey 123 content, or the SurveyMonkey content. All right, moving on. Full scope contract and review and approval. As was mentioned in the budget discussion, it was the consensus of the presidential leadership to just go ahead and move forward without increasing Alicia's hours and leaving it at the 2 hours. So that really helped on the budget. And so we put out the amended full scope contract. Michelle, do you have anything to add on the full scope contract?
No, I don't think so, Jeff. I think there, other than without adding in that additional hour for Alicia, other than just the 3% cost of living increase, there were no other changes.
Okay.
So if we keep Alicia at 2 hours, does that mean that she would be maybe posting less often because she said that she had already been working more than 2 hours a month? Or is there any change in services?
We discussed that, Mike, and right now we don't see a change. I think one of the things that was pushing her over her time, what we talked about was, it wasn't necessarily the social media post. She was creating all those graphics, but then when she was posting or being asked to post things on the web page, then she was having to I'm not a graphics person, so I don't know, but she said she would have to kind of redesign the graphic for the web page. So it's not like she could just take what she was using in the social media and put it on the web page. She had to spend some time redesigning it. So, I mean, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we talked about once the new web page designee is put in place, they might be able to do some of that too. And then Michael's going to work with Alicia also just to track her time really well over the next few months, just to get a good gauge on it too.
That covers it really well. The only thing I would add on top of that is, in order to kind of help on the hours, if that is an issue, we talked about having more social media content and presence as we ramp up the Big Sky GeoCon, and then this time of year having less social media out there. But we still need to have active posts because we need to keep that following that we built up over the last year.
Can I add one additional thing to that? So it was a really great discussion, and I really appreciated Michelle and Michael coming to the table and giving us all the background information. And I'm still new, so trying to learn it all and put it all together. One of the things that I also learned was that position is still pretty new, and for us as the Magip board, being able to see that there's value for the dollars spent. Once we get to the end of another year where we can look at that cycle and see how those dollars are impacting our membership, then we can reevaluate that. So I just wanted everybody to know that it wasn't just like, nope, we're not going to pay that extra money. There was definitely a lot of discussion about, yes, it's important. Is it paying for itself? So, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Gail. I think once we have kind of a full year and can evaluate the return on investment kind of with the social media, I think that that will be helpful to review as well.
All right, do we have any further discussion on the full scope contract? Hearing no further discussion, I would take a motion to approve the new full scope contract for 2024 and 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract.
I have a motion from Mike. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's motion by Mike, second by Gail. Any discussion on approval of the full scope contract? Hearing no further discussion, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. All those in favor, please state aye.
Hi.
Aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. All right, hearing no opposing votes, the motion passes. Thank you for all the discussion and work, everybody, on getting this passed. Michelle, do we need to do anything on adjustments for the payment for July, or are we good to go there?
Yeah, so when Michael invoices for July, yeah, she'll adjust with the new monthly fee.
All right, and if you need me to go ahead and sign that contract or go ahead and send me over a contract, I can go ahead and sign that.
Okay, yep, I'll have Michael send you the final version for
Okay.
signature. Thank
I'll
you.
sign that and scan it back and send it back to you.
Okay.
All right, we'll be good for a couple of years. Thank you. All right. Gail, this is your topic, the fall. We had a great discussion with Esri. Anyway, I'll let you take the ropes here.
Yeah, thank you. So this has been a really interesting conversation. So historically, going back a couple of years with Magip, it sounds like that at one point, Montana and Idaho alternated years for conferences. And then Montana made the decision to do their conference every year. During that alternate year, it sounds like there used to be a meetup that would happen in the fall. And that fall meetup was actually really more of a learning event, like a technical event where people could come and learn new skills, new GIS skills. And one of the things that we've been talking about, and I think it's been a conversation for a couple of years, is increasing our membership, and not just membership, but our connection with the people that are in the eastern side of the state. So as part of that conversation, we met, and that would be Jeff and Mike, myself, Jan Cunningham from Esri, and Rayed, who is also with Esri and has some contacts that he's been working with in these small cities and these counties that have like a one-person GIS shop. And as part of that conversation, I think it needs to include Aaron Fashaway as well. But the idea is that Rayed has this list of contacts, and we in the GIS community and in Magip could help to form kind of like a training manual to help these smaller communities. And as part of as we had the conversation and the conversation developed, what we were learning was that these smaller communities, these cities and counties really need help with understanding how to collect assets. So asset management using GIS. So that was one part of the conversation. It was really great. Rayed was really awesome, and he was totally willing to come to the table to help us talk about how to increase the membership. He also had mentioned to us that there is a water conference that happens in Great Falls, and that many of those people that could potentially be coming to our Magip GIS conference, or maybe be part of this fall conference, would be are attending this water conference that happens in Great Falls. So kind of supporting them where they're at, I think, is the idea. And then as part of that conversation, I was also talking to Zach, who he's done some other conferences when he was working in water resources. And he had mentioned to me that there are a number of tribes in Eastern Montana that could potentially benefit from GIS. Same thing, asset management. We had talked about some locations that we could potentially have a get together if it was going to be a tech conference like Miles City or Lewistown, which is like in the dead center of the state, so that we're actually giving those people that are on the eastern side the opportunity to come to that area. He did mention that in do you guys call it Livingstown or Livingston? Because we have a Livingston in Idaho, but I wrote it down as Livingstown. So anyway, he mentioned that there was a conference there for 200 to 300 people. And then as part of like many conversations that I've had, this idea of having a consultant, like one consultant with the state, and it sounds like maybe the state of Montana has done that with addressing, but could potentially do something like this with those smaller communities to help them so that you're paying one consultant and you have like one contract that you're working under. It was just kind of an idea that was thrown out, and that could potentially be part of this program of helping to build this community of these GIS users that are on the eastern or in rural parts of the state. Yeah, and I feel like I have one other thing that I need to add on to that. Oh, and the other thing was grants, that potentially some of these smaller communities could use grant funding, or maybe we could help them get grant funding. And this is where I feel like having Aaron at the table would be really useful, because I feel like that grant administration, and Rob, maybe this is something that falls under your banner, that there could be grants that are available to help these smaller communities to build their GIS, and we could help to build the training. Esri could actually administer the training and then start building our base a little bit for the Megas. So that's all I have.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, Gail. That was a great summary of the work you've been doing on this topic. Yeah, I have to get going here. I have another meeting shortly, but I don't think there's any room in our, our granting system currently, because
Okay.
it's geared towards education. But I do think that the MLIAC could be the perfect venue for that, right? I mean, that's what it's for. It's granting funds to local governments to support, their GIS endeavors. So I think that would be an excellent mechanism, and I think Aaron would be a good person to start that conversation with. Yeah, so we had these tech sessions, and we willingly and thoughtfully declined to continue them in favor of doing workshops at our annual conference, things of that nature. We found it difficult to spread ourselves that far. As I recall, in our last meeting, we talked about, helping support ventures that some of these communities might have. But I think maybe a first step, like right now we're talking in theoretical terms of these potential entities. Maybe it would be a good stroke of business to actually conduct a survey of who is actually out there and what are their concerns, right? Because it seems sort of nebulous at the moment.
Andrew is like, yes.
Maybe we can join forces on that. I was just thinking, Gail, that this seems to overlap a lot with local government. So maybe it could get pulled in, or it could help support your efforts in some way.
Andrew, I think that's awesome. As you were raising your hand, I was like, oh, local government. And just FYI, Rayed did offer his contact sheet. So when you're ready to send that survey, let's be sure to circle back with him and ask him if we could use his contact list. And then I think putting together some training. So I know we have some asset management users here on this group, and I have Zach, and Zach is like totally on board with helping. But it does sound like those smaller, those little 1 and 2 people GIS user groups users that are in those organizations really need help with asset management. And Zach said that, maybe there's a way that, I don't know, I'm just kind of springboarding here, but he was like, maybe there's a way that we could create a contract and this contractor can come in and collect these assets, like from Zach's perspective, he's looking at, we need all the signs and we need all of the storm drain covers, right? All of those assets that would be part of a city management, right? And a GIS that in a small company or a small city, they may not know how to build the schema for that or how to put it into ArcGIS Online. Anyway, it's just an idea. I have heard that it feels like a big ask to do one in the fall and then a one again in the spring. So maybe late summer, early fall, if we're going to do it at all. I wouldn't want to get them too close together because I know we have our planning meeting in September and we're going to be launching into Magip then. So it would be really hard, I think, to overlap those. The other thing that came out of this conversation is that there could be potentially users on the eastern side of the state that could be the people that are actually running it and not the Magip board, right?
Right. That's what we discussed last time. We said, we'll help you to some extent, but you have to do the work.
Yeah, maybe that, that survey that Andrew's getting ready to send could be the first place that we could get that data and then come back and bring it to the table.
Well, and honestly, asset management was a topic I had thought about for a future local gov sig meeting group where, I had thought about this since we're on this topic. I had thought about contrasting like, okay, pick 1 or 2 large cities or counties that are doing stuff with that and get a couple people from each to speak about it and then have either an open forum or contrast that with somebody from the eastern side who may or may not have anything, but they say, hey, that's okay. We just want to know what you're doing. And then get a better sense of the contrasting of either large and small or bigger or east-west. Like it was a topic I had thought about for 1 or 2 future things. So either you stole my thunder and are stealing my content.
You can take it, Andrew. I'll just give it right back. It's a lot of work.
Either way, happy to help however I can with that. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Gail, can I add one more thing? One of the things that Shane addressed as part of the discussion too was that a lot of these people had developed GIS content for assets under MLIAC grants, but that information is really stale. And the contractors that are doing the work for them are using antiquated GIS technology. They're creating ARC reader documents and they're not moving towards ArcGIS Online. So a lot of the help that the folks in the eastern and northern part of the state need is making that migration from ARC reader to ArcGIS Online so that they can have a much more dynamic and use the latest and greatest technology that's a lot easier to use and maintain.
Yeah, I just had this really interesting thought about how many times people reach out to us to the city of Bozeman because of the work that we do with GIS, and they ask us about asset management. They ask us about our schemas, and I think it'd be maybe really cool if from Magip members we could have like sister cities, like maybe one of the cities on the western side, one of the bigger cities could have a sister city on the eastern side, and they could say, hey, this is what we're doing, but then have like a format of how we would like. And I think this is where Aaron comes in or even maybe Jeff Hedstrom, making sure that the data that they're building is in a format that can be pushed to the state. right? You'd want to make sure that we have these schemas that are compatible and able to move up.
Oh, yeah, speaking my language, standardization.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and I think it's important to have somebody to call. I mean, I think it's great that we want to reach out to them, but I personally, if I know somebody that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Jeff, I need to talk to you about engineering data standards, which I do, Jeff. It's super cool to be able to have that contact, and maybe that would be one way to help to build that. I actually have to leave in 6 minutes, so I don't want to linger on that. If anybody has any other questions about that.
Well, I think there's an action item here. I think we can leave it up to a survey being generated. I think that's where the discussion went. Andrew, it sounds like you're willing to put that together. Am I hearing that correctly? Is he still here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will attempt to put more effort in my time in my days to get that done quickly.
Yeah, we'll need help. I think Gail and I can probably provide you that help too. So
Okay.
hopefully I'm
Right.
speaking out of turn there, Gail.
Not at all.
Okay, all right. Well, just let me take a look here at the agenda. There's probably the rest of the stuff. I don't know. We have the GIS day discussion. Still, we can table this stuff to next month. The only, if that's okay, unless we've got people that have time to stick around and continue these discussions. I just know, Gail, you were going to have a pretty good discussion on GIS day. So the only thing that I would add that we have on the agenda is we're not going to be having the strategic planning session at Jackson Hot Springs. That fell through. I'm working with Michelle to get that set up for Anaconda at the Forge. I'm just waiting back for an updated contract on that. So I guess I'd like your thoughts on whether you want to continue to have conversation on, or continue on with the agenda, if you want to table the rest of these matters to the next meeting.
I'm good with tabling them. Sorry,
Yep.
didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm good with tabling everything. I have a meeting after this.
Okay.
I did add a link to the chat, but we can come back to it when we come back to the GIS day. So one of the things that happened at the Esri conference was they introduced from National Geographic this map maker kit for schools, and it's super cool. And I think that when we come back to this, if you're interested in taking a look at it, there's the link, but I'll bring it to the table when we meet next month.
All right. So it sounds like we're okay with tabling these things. Like Gail, I know, sorry, my voice is starting to fail. Gail, I know you want to get on the GIS day sooner rather than later. I think that's a great idea so that we can get involved with local schools and other places. So anyway, we'll table these matters unless I have any separate feedback. And I guess I would take a motion to adjourn if people are okay with doing that.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, Gail's motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
With Gail's motion to adjourn, Mike has seconded that. All in favor of adjourning state aye.
Hi.
All opposed, the same sign. With no one being opposed to that, the motion to adjourn is approved. I want to thank you all for the great discussion that we've had today. I look forward to talking to you about the things that have been tabled. If you have any other ideas for the next meeting, please feel free to send me an email with ideas for agenda topics. I'm hoping to maybe spin up an ethics discussion at some time, but maybe we'll do that in the strategic planning retreat. Also, if you're, it looks like we're going to have the strategic planning retreat in September on the 19th and 20th. If you can't make that, I'd like to know that so I can work with the Forge on that contract. Thank you, everybody, for attending today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, and sorry about my voice.
Feel better.
Bye.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye. Thanks, everybody. Figure out.